Thanks for joining us on this edition of Writers Who Run. Today we have poet and runner Tracy Dimond here to talk about her poetry collections, including the latest emotion industry. I want to say, the first thing that took my attention about your poetry was just like the pop culture references. I just feel like it really gives us a window into you as a person. I wrote down momentum being one of my favorites. I love the line. My cooking montage feels more serious since downloading Wu-Tang Clan. Is that something you've always done in your writing?
I think maybe since I've just been conscious about my writing process, so right before I went to get my MFA, that's I've just been drawn to pop culture in this way that it is part of building our identity. And I do think about it a lot in terms of what does this mean for potential timelessness of the poems? But then I also think, you can't really predict that because we've all, for the past few years, really been losing our minds about this is just to say because of how much we love the cadence. And although it's not a pop culture poem, none of us have ice boxes anymore, but we all get the poem. So I think, yeah, I'm just really interested in how these things build our identity and are a part of us.
I could see that. I felt like reading the two collections that you sent me, I felt like I could pinpoint, kind of growing up in that time period, going to high school and college in that period, I could pinpoint when this was written, which was I thought it was cool. Like, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's I hope people who didn't grow up getting dial-up internet and um watching some of those reality shows and seeing like living through the Me Too era
Mm.
in that way. There's all these different things that were happening that, yeah, I don't think I could have written those poems in the same way now. But I also do really love how that makes every poem a bit of a time capsule.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And how did you come up with the concept of sort of mashing up, artists with poets?
Yeah, so I think like many things that I do, it sort of started as a joke. Um, like my first collection, Sorry I Wrote So Many Sad Poems Today, started out as a text message to my friend Amanda.
Huh.
And then I wrote all these poems at the gym, and she said, "Oh, this is so funny. We should publish it." And then that's what we did. I'm pretty sure I was probably joking about how Kesha is like a modern Sylvia Plath and got egged on by some friends to, keep writing these mashups. Um, and I first started writing them and playing with them as a form um, when I feel like mashups were kind of getting big in music. Like the drummer from Third Eye Blind put out a mixtape of mashups of his drumming over different songs. And I just kind of ran with that. And wherever I saw similarities in a poet and a musical artist, I just played around with that. Like Kesha, Sylvia Plath, Louise Glick, and Marina, Allen Ginsberg, and Third Eye Blind. I was just really curious about how they would sound together and if you could really pull out the difference once they were mashed up.
Mhm. I love the idea of your poetry being playful. I think sometimes for people who are not, who don't know poetry, I think it can come across a little bit stiff and there's like a little bit of a, yeah, like a stiffness to it if you're not ingrained in that part of literature.
I think people feel like that too, and it's part of how they're taught to decipher it, which when you look at like Taylor Swift's fandom, her fans like love deciphering things, and that's kind of what poetry can be.
Um,
Um, yeah.
yeah, that's a great point. She is very poetic and it just ties back into your connections with pop culture and it seems like you kind of have an eye for that.
Thank you. I wish it was like a skill that I really work towards, but it's just something that I feel like maybe just a bit of an obsession that I just keep going back to it and having fun with it. And like, yeah, just thinking like, oh my gosh, I overheard this phrase on NPR. Like, what does that even mean? Or I heard this on the Today Show, and people talk about poets like they don't make any sense, but like these correlations in the language they're using don't make sense to me either.
That's funny. Yeah, like things that people would otherwise just blow past and you're sitting there thinking like, "Wait, what does that actually mean?"
Yeah, like making little puzzles for myself and then putting it out there as a way of like, anyone else think this way?
So that's a great segue. Can you talk about like what your writing process is like?
Sure. It's not a consistent process like some people who like get up every day and write. Um, I'm always taking notes either on my phone or in a notebook, just depending on how I'm moving about in the world. So, I have those notes of like things I overhear or things I'm thinking about while on the move. And then I'll go back and look at a batch of what I've taken notes on or observed, and then piece things together. So it's like taking things that I've sort of written or heard and then collaging it.
Awesome. Um, so how much of that is like informed by your running? Is it informed at all, or is that just a separate part of your life?
Well, it's so different because the running is like very consistent. You have to like train a certain way, or at least I do, to not get injured. Like I need to track my mileage every week, track my elevation, make sure I'm not like doing anything like too too much or too fast,
Uh-huh.
just like for the health of my own body. But then the drafting process is a little more erratic. Um, but I do have a consistent submission process. So like since I don't write every day, I do have a goal for myself to submit writing once a month. And so like having that, it's almost, I guess it is sort of like running because it's almost like having that race goal. And so I know, I've got to be working on something throughout the month to have something I feel confident enough to submit. So I think and then when I'm running, I will stop and write things down. So I think that's where some of the running comes in with with having the movement and setting a goal for myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you like producing a certain amount of poetry every month, or do you just kind of keep that loose as well?
I keep that pretty loose too because of I might have simultaneous submissions out there or I might have just like things that have been rejected, but then I edit and still feel like there's something there that I'm excited about. So I'll send them out again.
Gotcha. Nice. Um, yeah, some of your poems, I felt like I could pick out lines where it felt like it may have been written on a run, or like you mentioned you wrote that one collection at the gym, essentially. So I felt like I picked up on these moments where it was like really moving with your body, and maybe that was in my head, but yeah.
I could see that, and I like that you got that feeling and had that connection. Because I don't necessarily I write about the body a lot, but I don't necessarily write like I love running, I love moving. It's more like there's there's a lot of steps within a poem that I hope someone is following that journey.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely got that. Like it's storytelling, right, within your poetry. Yeah.
Yeah, not super linear, but I think it's in there.
It is. I felt it. Yeah, how much of your writing happens away from the desk in general? Like maybe it's not on a run, but maybe it's just out in the world.
Yeah, that's a good question. Uh, I've never exactly thought about it that way, but when I think about it, and I think I could say like a solid 3/4 of the drafting happen away from the desk.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's all like if I'm moving, then I'm thinking more and taking things in. And then there's that next bit is like all the editing and piecing things together and finding the connections between the different things I might have drafted.
Right. And you said you just keep like a notes app or something when you're out coming up with lines?
Exactly, like a notes app, or I'm looking at, oh, I did put them somewhere else, but I had my travel notebooks that I like write in as I'm like hiking or at a museum when I'm not in Baltimore.
Nice. Um, and okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Your
Mhm.
new collection explores more about like health, wellness, the body. What has it been like exploring that in your writing?
It's been well, this is it's so lame to say, but it's been interesting. So I have a chronic illness, and you know some of the things people will say is like they'll say, "Have you tried this? Have you tried yoga? Have you tried meditating?"
Hmm.
All while you're trying to get care, whether it's through a diagnosis or um, even just getting a doctor to take your symptoms seriously and actually do some testing. Um, so I think a lot about, like, partially just because it's my everyday experience of like, what is your actual health versus how people are perceiving you? And like, just because I run and I'm competitive and I like to race and I can put on bronzer so I don't have pallor, um, that my lived experience might not be of health.
Right, right. Yeah, how does that play into your training?
I just try to be really flexible. Um, I can still be pretty consistent with my mileage. Um, so that works out for me. But I'm often not very interested in signing up for like a road race where on a Saturday 3 months from now, I need to feel really good to race a 5K. Like
Right.
that kind of race is just really hard. And if you're not feeling well, you might run like 3 or 4 minutes slower than like you like know you have the potential to. So I try to I am doing a road race in October, um, but I've really stuck to trail racing just because that's like more based on your own effort for the day rather than like a time that you want to hit.
Yeah, I've never run a trail race before, but it seems to me just the people I've interviewed who have, it seems to me like it's more of a mental game really than physical. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, because there's obviously like the mental game with road running and like holding strong on your pace. But with like trail running and especially ultra trail running, like you just have to be able to like move through, like let's say like feeling bad. Like I did a really cool like semi unofficial race, I'll call it a race on the Wild Oak Trail in the George Washington National Forest last February. Uh, and I felt really bad around mile 13. And this is a 28-mile thing.
Oh,
But I felt really bad because of something I ate. And well, first of all, there's like, it's an unofficial race. Like, really, like, you can't like get picked up. You just have to finish.
oh my gosh.
So I just spent like 30 minutes where I was with someone who I had just met that day, and I had gotten really quiet, and I said to him, "I'm really nauseous. Like I'm just going to be quiet and do my own thing for a while." Um, but then I found him again around mile 16, and we finished it together, and it just yeah, it I needed to let that pass because I knew I wasn't injured and I knew I just needed to like let things settle and move really slowly for a bit before like maybe picking it back up if I started to feel well.
Wow, I don't know how, you've seen stories about racers who will you know, vomit or whatever at mile 10 or whatever, and they keep going and finishing. That's takes a lot of perseverance.
It's a little unhinged, and I think that's why I like the trail community so much because
Uh,
poets are like we're all maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are just like playing games with language, and it can be really silly. Like there's a history of silliness and like surrealism. And then you get to trail running and people are like, here's a quesadilla and like let's go run up to this summit together. Like that sounds great.
that's awesome. I love that connection between trail runners and poets. Um, let's see. Yeah, how long have you been running?
I mean, I was that kid in gym class that liked running the mile. I was the one kid out of millions, I think. Um, but I like more consistently started running after I finished my swimming career. Um, I swam for Rutgers my whole college career, and I knew I wanted to do something. And I'd loved running. I had played a little bit of soccer, and we would run to cross train for swimming too. So I I decided like why not see if I like doing this some more, and signed up for a 5 mile race to do in a few months after swimming ended and really loved it compared like I just love kind of competing, but then also like the cadence of your footsteps are a lot like the rush of water.
Mhm.
So that I've always really loved that aspect. And it's a lot easier than trying to get to a pool.
It is more convenient. So I guess that leads me to my next question. So if you know, had this like athletic side of you in college as a swimmer, when did you decide to get your MFA? Were you pursuing literature at the same time, or was that later?
It's somewhat later, but Rutgers, pretty close to New York City. I had thought I would graduate and get a job in publishing. Like that was how I thought I was going to be connected to writing because I always loved reading too. Um, but I took a few, creative writing classes, and it's like the classic story of having a few great creative writing teachers um, that were really encouraging. Like Susan Miller still teaches, and I've run into her at some writing events since I was at Rutgers because I was taking those classes in like 2009, 2010.
Huh.
And it was, really great to like reconnect with her and to tell her how much of an impact her encouragement had on me. Um, and so I didn't immediately pursue an MFA. I wasn't sure if maybe I would go for a PhD in like communication theory or history or
Hmm.
library science. I was a little all over the place, but it was all sort of connected to like learning and potentially like being in academia for my career. Um, but ended up moving to Baltimore after I graduated and found a great community in some of the writing series around here. And one of the series happened to be put on by a bunch of University of Baltimore students. And so that's how I found out about the MFA program. And I decided, like, I've lived here for a couple of years now, and I would be able to have residency with the MFA, and why not apply and see if I get in and see what happens. So it was I wasn't set on any path, but everything felt really right as I sort of found what was happening around me.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Um, so let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask you, sorry, we're gonna go in a different direction because I don't want to move on without asking about um your I don't know if you'd call it a collection or if it's really one long poem, but to Tracy to like. Can you talk about the process of writing and revising that? It's kind of like one long conversation.
Yeah, so that it's published by Akinoga Press, um, who the founder and editor in chief, Michael Zuloff, is someone I went to school with. And he's a really talented book artist. So he had asked me if I had something for him, like for a little bit. And I kept saying, like, no, I want to have something like exciting for you to play with the form. Like you make such beautiful book objects that can't just be a traditional book. Um, and then I started writing these like emails to Tracy, to me, playing with identity and speaker. Um, and once I had about 3 pages in a Word document, that's when I messaged Michael and I said, I have a weird little epistolary poem. Would you like to read it? And he read it and immediately said, like, this would be a really cool accordion book. And so that was a like really collaborative where, we'd been actually, I don't think we ever took a workshop together at that point because we weren't in the same year in the MFA, but we had known each other. Um, but we came up with kind of similar feedback processes from how we were taught at the University of Baltimore of letting people like be their own voice.
Mhm.
Um, so we did a few rounds of edits just to expand upon it a little bit. Um, and then we kind of just hit a point where we were like, we have to say we're done. Like this can't be a leaves of grass situation.
Uh-huh.
And so then that beautiful object came out of it.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. I wish I had grabbed it to bring out here, but it is. Oh, do you have it?
I think, yeah, I have a drawer of like creative stuff right next to me. So yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
I
it
can,
blurs, but the
and
yes.
then you can see all my books. I should
There
have
you
taken
go.
the blur off earlier.
Yeah. The geometric design on it is so cool as well. And the paper, it's just like a nice paper. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, he's just so great. Yeah,
Fun.
that was fun to work on.
What are you working on next?
I have a second full length collection sort of in a stack. Um, and so right now I'm always sort of writing new poems, um, for better or worse. Like I don't know if that's like there's always more that I'm writing, and then I have to decide where to put things or, to just kind of shelve them for a bit while I'm putting a collection together. But basically, I have a full length that I'm editing and organizing, and sort of looking at the themes of like, um, it's similar to a motion industry, but it's also a little more because it's poems that are more like 2019 to now, like getting reacquainted with the body, where emotion industry is like a lot of frustration and rage and like disassociating. Like this is more like getting back to like movement and like feeling more of the world around you.
Yeah. Do you write when you're writing new poems, are you writing like to a collection, or when you're putting a collection together, are you sort of like mining your archives to see like what fits in with a certain theme? How does that work?
It's more of a mining the archives. Um, I can I can put together a chapbook like on a theme. Like I can say, oh, I have all these kind of very specific ideas. Um, but then when I'm looking at a full length, that's that I find a lot harder, which I think is, part of why it took me a long time to find a shape of a full length collection, um, to that I felt really good about. But yeah, I'm sort of like mining and then editing towards like the themes that I'm noticing and like organizing around that to try and organize a voice and a feeling I want the reader to have.
Right. Awesome. And is there like a release date for this next collection, or it's still in its infancy?
It's still in its infancy and I'll be submitting it. Hopefully, I'll have something a little more put together for some of the September submission periods. Um, for some of the presses that like I really like their catalog and hope they would have me too.
Hmm. September, that's coming up.
I know it's right around the corner, so I've like I have a solid shitty first draft, but I want to feel a little better about the shape. And some of these submission periods, they're opening up like September 15th. So it is almost a whole month.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you. I know I mean, it's the luck of the draw, or at least where I am in my poetry. Like, I don't have a contract with a publisher, so it's more of like finding a place where it'll fit in with the catalog and going from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it'll find a home somewhere.
Thank you. I honestly like, well, I mean, I don't love getting rejected, but I find it fun to like stay on top of what presses I love are doing. Um, like like Blair and Switchback and Milkweed and Copper Canyon, and I'm sure I'm leaving Black Ocean, like, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a bunch. Um, but like it all, like I love what they're doing, so I always kind of keep abreast of like what they're publishing and like wonder how my work might fit. Um, it often feels a lot like when you love like what a record label does, and so you're gonna probably like most artists that one label is putting out.
Right. Yeah, it makes me think of like A24 is really big right now as like and I know it's one of those things. I'm like, I know I'm gonna like every movie they do.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, oh, it's a weird genre bending movie with some humor, but then they will cut you emotionally.
Yeah.
I will watch. Did you watch the Walrus one?
No,
It Tusk.
it's on my list though.
It's funny until it's not.
Oh
It's
gosh.
it's really good, but it like really hit me out of left field. When I've seen a good amount of A24 films that I should have known something was gonna turn.
Yeah, yeah. I think the most recent one we watched was Heretic and the Lobster.
Oh, well, yeah, they're both very different feel, but
Yes.
yeah, I loved The Lobster. I had no idea what I was getting into when I watched it.
Me neither. It's not to get on a tangent of movies, but it's nice to have storytelling that feels fresh, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they publish zines and all sorts of things. Like
Is it
they do
really?
interesting stuff. Yeah.
Did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah. I think there's a couple children's books. Now I'm like, I should verify that before saying that on a recorded podcast. But I'm pretty sure they have a children's book or two out, at least.
Maybe they'll publish your next collection.
Yeah, whoever's listening, if you know someone that works at A24,
A24.
I'm around.
Okay, and before we move on to the next section, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, because you mentioned Kesha so much in your poetry, and I saw you went to the Kesha concert recently. How was it?
It was so good. Um, I love her an embarrassing amount.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like the way she's like grown creatively. Um, it's been exciting to see like it's like a woman about we're pretty much the same age who's like through a really intense like legal fight, and for her like emotional fight, like got kind of the rights back to her own creativity. um and yeah, this show was 4 acts, in 4 acts, telling the story of her career.
Really?
Yeah, so um it was interesting to see the albums that were left out of this one and then the albums that were included. But it spoke to where she is in her life. Um, and she did it in a really, like, in a cool, like, getting closer to performance art kind of way.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm a big Karen Finley fan. So, like, to see Kesha kind of getting more into performance art, even though she's always put on quite a performance. Um, it was just good. I feel like I'm never, I know I'm never not going to have a good time at a Kesha concert, but my friend and I that went together were just so moved and like keep talking about it. And it was a month ago.
Those are the best kinds of shows that yeah, they just stick with you. And I love a story in a concert. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to our rapid fire round. Okay, in one word, what would you say emotion industry is about, since that was your most recent publication?
Ooh. Uh, hmm, that's really hard. There are a bunch of words, but I'm like, what word do I?
I know it's a tough one.
I know, and I should know. Like, I should sort of have this kind of stuff in mind, but um, and I want to say, sorry, this is supposed to be rapid fire. I'll just say the first word that came to me. Even though it's like maybe not going to excite someone about reading the book. But I would say, and this is two words, like internal struggle.
Okay, interesting. Where's your favorite place to run in Baltimore?
Druid Hill Park. Um, am I allowed to elaborate?
Yeah, please.
Druid Hill Park. So, yeah, I mean, Baltimore is going to be the host of AWP next year. So just Druid Hill Park is about 3 miles north of the convention center. And it was designed by the same designers that created Central Park.
Oh,
So it's like a really beautiful, sprawling, green, mixed use area where it's like so fun to go there. There's people of all ages and races, like walking, playing basketball, doing calisthenics, running. And then it's just got some really great like hills um, to run up. So I really love running back there.
great. Where's your favorite place to run outside of Baltimore?
Iceland,
Iceland?
yes,
Amazing.
it's beautiful and it's not too hot.
If you could go on a run with any of the subjects you've written about in your poems, who would you choose?
I Kesha probably just to get to spend some time with her. I'm not even sure if she runs much, but Kesha, I'll say Kesha.
What are you reading right now?
I'm one of those people that's in the middle of lots of different things. Um, and so just a couple, I'm reading, and I've been reading it for a while, Gail Marie Thompson's collection, Mountain Amnesia. And she's an amazing, amazing poet and a runner. So if she's not someone you've kind of looked at, Melissa, I think you'd really like her work too. Um, and then I'm finally, like, I feel like as a swimmer, it's embarrassing that I haven't read The Chronology of Water yet
Uh-huh.
in full. So I'm almost done with that, and it's gutting me. And now I'm just real even more excited about the movie adaptation that Kristen Stewart's doing.
Oh, I didn't know there was going to be a movie adaptation.
Yes, and it's Kristen Stewart, and I don't think I've written about her in my poems, but she's another person who like her creative arc is so interesting to me, and I'll kind of follow anything she does. So very excited.